the next session on storage area networks. In this video lecture session, we will be discussing about remote replication. Topics that we are going to discuss in this particular video session is different types of remote replication technologies, that is host-based remote replication, storage array-based remote replication, and network-based remote replication. Under host-based storage replication, we will be discussing LVM-based remote replication and host-based log shipping. Under storage area-based remote replication, we will be discussing synchronous replication mode, asynchronous replication mode, and disk buffered replication mode. So then we will be discussing network-based remote replication, where we will discuss CDB-based remote replication, that is common data block, okay, CDP, continuous data protection. So we'll also discuss continuous data protection remote replication, and at the end we will be discussing what do you mean by three-site replication. So under three-site replication, we have something called as cascade and multi-hop, and combination of synchronous and asynchronous remote replication. We'll also be discussing three-site triangle or multi-target replication, remote replication, and at the end we will be discussing remote replication and migration in virtualized environment. So let us begin this video session. I welcome you all to this video session on remote replication. So what is remote replication? Let us first try to understand this question. What is remote replication? Replica is created at a remote site. So in the previous video session, we had discussed about local replication, where the replica was created at the local site. Here, the replica is created at the remote site. While referring to remote site, that can be a remote data center at some different location. So that is what we call as the remote site. So in remote replication, replica is created at a remote site. So it addresses the risks associated with the regional driven outages. If an entire data center is affected, since you are maintaining the replica at a remote site, so your replica will be very safe and can be accessible anytime. However, the replica could be a few miles away or halfway around the globe. Okay, the replica that we are maintaining, it may be few miles away from one data center, or it may be halfway around the globe. It may be in some other continent or some other country also. What are the modes of remote replication based on the RPO requirement? So based on the recovery point objective requirement, there are two modes of remote replication. We have the synchronous replication and the asynchronous replication. So we have the source site and the remote site. So the production data from the source site will be replicated to the remote site. So remember, there are two modes of remote replication. We have the synchronous replication and the asynchronous replication. Let us first see what is this synchronous replication. So in synchronous replication, a write must be committed to the source and the remote replica before it is acknowledged to the host. So in this diagram, we have the host, we have the source, and we have the target. So here, whenever we are writing something to the source, so a write must be committed to the source and the remote replica before an acknowledgement will be received back to the host. Let us see what it is. So step 1, data write will be returned by the host to the source. From the source, it will be returned to the target. Once the data is committed to the target, only then an acknowledgement will be given back to the host saying that the write is successful. Now the synchronous replication ensures source and remote replica have identical data at all times. So using the synchronous replication, we can ensure that the source and the replica, or the source data and the replica, will have the same data at all the times. So there will not be any difference in the data between the source and the target at any point of time. Synchronous replication ensures that both the source and the remote replica have identical data at all times. Here, write ordering is also maintained, that is, replica receives the writes in exactly the same order as the source. So the replica receives the write in the same order as the source had received the write operations. So whatever data that was returned to the source first will be returned to the target first as well. Now, synchronous replication provides the lowest recovery point objective and recovery time objective. So it offers the least recovery point objective and the recovery time objective. The goal here is zero recovery point objective. That is, there should not be any loss of data. Recovery time objective is as small as the time taken it takes at the time it takes to start the application on the target side. So that is the recovery time objective. That is also very small as the time it takes to start the application at the target site. So remember, in synchronous replication, a write must be committed to the source and the remote replica before it is acknowledged to the host. Synchronous remote replication ensures that the source and the remote replica have identical data at all times. Write ordering is maintained, that is, the replica receives the writes in the same order as the source. And synchronous replication also provides lowest recovery point objective and recovery time objective. Here the goal is zero recovery point objective, and RTO also should be very small as the time it takes to start the application on the target site. So let us look at the bandwidth requirement of synchronous replication. So first let us try to understand the response time extension. So application response times will be extended. So that is because data must be transmitted to the target site before the write can be acknowledged. So the time to transmit will depend on the distance and the bandwidth. Okay, here the response time will be more because once the host has returned something to the source, the host can get an acknowledgement back only after the write has been committed to the target as well. So until then, the host will have to wait for the acknowledgement. So it may actually increase the response time. And the time to transmit will depend on the distance between the source and the remote site as well as the bandwidth. Let us see what is this bandwidth. To minimize the impact on response time, sufficient bandwidth must be provided at all times. Because the data, every time a data is returned to the source, immediately the data will also be returned to the target. To ensure the smooth synchronous remote replication, to minimize the impact on response time, sufficient bandwidth must be provided at all the times. So the synchronous remote replication is rarely deployed beyond 200 kilometers. That is a source site and target site. If it is within 200 kilometers, only then this is that is the synchronous remote replication is preferred. Here we have a chart, a graph of time versus the writes in megabytes per second. So as you can see, the typical workload should be within the maximum bandwidth. Now let us see the next type of remote replication. We have something called as the asynchronous replication. So in asynchronous replication, write is committed to the source and immediately acknowledged to the host. Okay, here the host need not wait until the write is committed to the target. So we are going to write, the host is going to write something to the source and immediately an acknowledgement will be received by the host. Later at some point of time, data from the source will be returned to the target. Data is buffered at the source and transmitted to the remote site later. So let us look at this simulation here. The host will going to write some data to the source. Immediately after writing to the source, it gets back an data acknowledgement. So data will be continuously buffered at the source and then transmitted to the remote site later. As we can see, after the acknowledgement has been given to the host, later at some point of time, data from the source will be returned to the target and the source receives a data acknowledgement from the target. Here in asynchronous remote replication, some vendors maintain write ordering. Other vendors do not maintain write ordering but ensure that the replica will always be a consistent restartable image. Okay, some vendors, they ensure data ordering, others do not ensure data ordering but ensure that the replica will always be a consistent restartable image. So what is this write ordering? As we had discussed in synchronous replication, so suppose the data was returned first to the source, the same order will be followed while writing the data to the target. So that is called as write ordering. Now this asynchronous remote replication offers finite recovery point objective. In case of synchronous replication, the remote recovery point objective it was 0, whereas it offers asynchronous remote replication will have some finite recovery point objective. Replica will be behind the source by a finite amount. As a result, data present on the replica or the target may not be the same as what is present in the source. So this can be configured. So it's typically configured. So remember, in asynchronous remote replication, write is committed to the source and immediately acknowledged to the host. Data is buffered at the source and transmitted to the remote site later. So some vendors maintain write ordering, others do not maintain write ordering but ensure that the replica will always be a consistent restartable image. It offers finite recovery point objective. So here the response time is unaffected. In case of synchronous remote replication, we saw the response time was more there. Here the response time is unaffected and it need not need any high bandwidth. Average bandwidth will be sufficient. Whereas sufficient buffers are needed at the source to hold the data before the transmission to the remote site. Since the source is going to buffer all the data before it is returned to the target, so the source needs to have sufficient buffers to hold the data before transmission to the remote site. Now asynchronous remote replication can be deployed over long distances as well. So there was a limit of 200 kilometers in case of synchronous remote replication. Here it can be deployed over longer distances. So this asynchronous remote replication is preferred for distances beyond 200 kilometers. So we have a graph here of the bandwidth versus the time. As we can see, we require the average bandwidth for a typical workload in asynchronous remote replication. Now let us look at the different remote replication technologies. There are three different types of remote replication technologies, although only two are listed here. There's one more. So we have the host-based remote replication. We have something called as storage array-based remote replication, and we also have something called as network-based remote replication. So under the host-based remote replication technology, we have something called as LVM-based remote replication, that is logical volume manager-based remote replication, and we have something called as host-based log shipping. So these are the two remote replication technologies that are part of host-based remote replication. Similarly, under storage array-based remote replication technologies, we have something called as synchronous replication, we have something called as asynchronous replication mode, and we have something called as disk buffered remote replication. This is a combination of both local and remote replication. And the third one we have is something called as network based remote replication, where we shall use something called as CDP based remote replication technology. Continuous data protection technology will be used as a part of network based remote replication. So let us first try to understand the host based remote replication technology. Under that, let us first try to understand what do we mean by remote based logical volume manager based remote replication. So the host based remote replication uses the host resources to perform and manage the replication operations. The first category of host based remote replication technology that we have is called as the LVM based remote replication. LVM based remote replication is performed and managed at the volume group level. So we had seen what do you mean by a volume group. It's basically a group of multiple physical volumes. So LVM based remote replication is performed and managed at the volume group level. Writes to the source volumes are transmitted to the remote host by the logical volume manager. Right? Whatever writes to the source volumes that we have, that will be returned to the target or to the remote host by the logical volume manager. The logical volume manager on the remote host receives the writes and commits them to the remote volume group. So we have the logical volume manager at the source as well as the logical volume manager at the remote host. So the logical volume manager or the LVM at the source is used to write to the source volumes and transmit it to the remote host, whereas the LVM on the remote host receives the writes and commits them to the remote volume group. Now prior to the start of a replication, identical volume groups, logical volumes and file systems are created at the source and the target sites. So here before the start of the replication operation, so identical volume groups are created, logical volumes are created and file systems are created at both the source and the target sites. One method to perform initial synchronization or initial synchronization of data between the source and the replica is performed. So one way to perform this initial synchronization is to back up the source data and restore the data to the remote replica. That is one way of initial synchronization, where we create identical volume groups, logical volumes and file systems. So one way to perform initial synchronization is to back up the source data and restore the data to the remote replica. Alternatively, this initial synchronization can be performed by replicating over the IP network. Until the completion of the initial synchronization, production work on the source volumes is typically halted. So we need to observe one thing: until the initial synchronization, which involves creating identical volume groups, logical volumes and file systems, is completed. So until the completion of the initial synchronization, we cannot begin the production work on the source volume. The source volume cannot be used for production work until the initial synchronization is completed. After the initial synchronization, production work can be started on the volume groups and replication of data can be performed over an existing standard IP network. So after the initial synchronization is complete, production work can be started on the source volumes and replication of data can be performed over an existing standard IP network. So LVM based remote replication is independent of the storage arrays and therefore supports replication between heterogeneous storage arrays. So it can be used to perform the remote replication between different kinds of storage devices, that is heterogeneous storage arrays, because it is independent of the storage arrays. Most operating systems are shipped with the logical volume managers, so additional licenses and specialized hardwares are not required for implementing this LVM based remote replication. Since most of the operating systems are shipped with the logical volume managers, so additional licenses and specialized hardware are not required to implement this LVM based remote replication. The replication process adds overhead on the host CPUs, and the CPU resources on the source host are shared between the replication tasks and the applications. So this might cause the performance degradation to the applications running on the host. So because the remote host is also involved in the replication process, it must be continuously up and available. Now since the entire replication is controlled or it is processed by the CPU of the host, it adds overhead to the host CPU, and the CPU resources on the source are shared between the replication tasks and the applications, which might cause the performance degradation to the applications that are running on the host. And also, since the remote host is also involved in the replication process, it must be continuously up and available. So that is that LVM based remote replication. Here the duplicate volume groups at source and target sites must be created. All writes to the source volume group are replicated to the target volume group by the logical volume manager at the source site. So the remote replication can either be synchronous or it can be in asynchronous mode. In the event of a network failures, writes are queued in the log file and are then sent to the target when the issue is resolved. Suppose there is a network failure, all the writes are queued in the log file at the source and then sent to the target when the issue is resolved. Size of the log file determines the length of the outage that can be withstood. So the size of the log file determines what is the amount of outage that can be withstood if there is a failure of the network. Upon failure at the source site, the production can be transferred to the target site. Now this is a very important feature. If the source site cannot be accessed, if the source site is failed, we can shift or migrate the production to the target site as well and resume our normal business operations. So let us briefly look at the advantages and the disadvantages of logical volume manager based remote replication. So the advantages are as follows. The source and the target sites do not need to use the same storage arrays and the RAID protection configuration. Source and the target sites do not need to use the same storage arrays and the RAID protection configuration. That is because this LVM based remote replication is independent of the storage arrays. It can be used along with heterogeneous storage arrays. Second advantage is the response time issue can be eliminated with asynchronous mode. But the drawback here is extended RPO. So if the response time is more, that issue can be eliminated by implementing the asynchronous mode. Third advantage is specialized hardware and software is not required because LVM is available in the operating system running on the host. So specialized hardware and software is not required in case of implementing this logical volume manager based remote replication. Now let us also briefly look at different limitations of this LVM based remote replication technology. So extended network outages require very large log files at the source site. If the network failure is for a long duration, we need to have sufficient large log files at the source site to queue the right operations. If the log files fill up before the outage is resolved, full synchronization is required. Now, suppose the log file has filled up before the network issue has been resolved. In that case, full synchronization is required. Replication process adds overhead on the host CPUs. The replication process adds the overhead on the host CPU because the host CPU need to process all these, need to control all these replication operation. Remote host must also be continuously up and available. So these are the limitations of LVM based remote replication. Now let us look at the next type of host based remote replication technology. So the next technology for host based remote replication we have is something called as host based log shipping. Now the database replication via the log shipping is a host based replication technology supported by most of the databases. So database replication via the log shipping is a host based replication technology that is supported by most databases. Replication to the source database are captured in the logs, which are periodically transmitted by the source host to the remote host. Transactions to the source database are captured in the logs, which are periodically transmitted by the source host to the remote host. So here we are going to periodically transfer the transactions to the source database, which are captured in the logs. The remote host receives the logs and applies them to the remote database. So here we have this database at the source site and the database at the remote site. So whatever transactions that are applied to the source database are captured in the log files, and these logs are then transmitted to the remote host where they will be applied to the remote database. Now prior to starting the production work and replication of log files, all relevant components of the source database are replicated to the remote site. So before starting the production work and replication of log files, all relevant components of the source database are replicated to the remote site. So this is done while the source database is shut down. So before the production work can start and replication of the log files, so all the relevant components of the source database are replicated to the remote site. This is done while the database is shut down. Now after this step, production work is started on the source database. The remote database is started in standby mode. Typically in the standby mode, the database is not available for transactions. So when a database is in a standby mode, the database will not be available for performing the transactions. All database management systems switch log files at pre-configured time intervals or when a log file is full. So all database management systems, they switch the log files at pre-configured time intervals or once the log file is full. The current log file is closed at the time of log switching and a new log file is opened. The current log file will be closed at the time of log switching and a new log file is opened. When the log switch occurs, the closed log file is transmitted by the source host to the remote host. The remote host receives the log and updates the standby database. This process ensures that the standby database is consistent up to the last committed log. Recovery point objective at the remote site is finite and depends on the size of the log and the frequency of log switching. Recovery point objective at the remote site is finite and depends on the size of the log and the frequency of the log switching. So available network bandwidth, the latency, the rate of updates to the source database and the frequency of the log switching should be considered when determining the optimal size of the log file. The recovery point objective at the remote site is finite and depends on the size of the log and the frequency of log switching, the available network bandwidth, the latency, rate of updates to the source database, and the frequency of log switching should be considered when determining the optimal size of the log file. Similar to LVM based remote replication, the existing standard IP network can be used for replicating the log files. Host based log shipping requires low network bandwidth because it transmits only the log files at regular intervals. The entire files will not be transferred in case of this host based log shipping, rather, only the log files will be transmitted from the source side to the remote site where these logs will be applied to the remote database. Hence, the network bandwidth required is very less, or it's very low. Network bandwidth is sufficient for implementing this host based log shipping. So host based log shipping, so it's offered by most of the database vendors. Transactions to the source database are stored in logs. Log files are transmitted to the remote host when the DBMS switch log files. So it happens at pre-configured time intervals or when the log file is full. The remote host receives the logs and applies them to the remote database. So the advantages are as follows: it has minimal overhead, requires low bandwidth, and the standby database will be consistent up to the last applied log. As we can see in this diagram here, so the logs at the source site, the logs that are applied to the database at the source site will be transmitted to the remote site. At the remote site, that will be applied to the standby database. All these transactions will be applied to the standby database at the remote site. Now let us proceed with the next type of remote replication technology, that is storage array based remote replication technology. In storage array based remote replication technology, the array operating environment and the resources perform and manage the data replication. So unlike the host based remote replication where the host CPU is responsible for managing all the replication processing, here in case of storage array based remote replication, the array environment or the array operating environment and the resources perform and manage the data replication. This relieves the burden on the host CPUs, which can be better used for applications running on the host. Since the array operating environment performs the storage array based remote replication, the host CPU are relieved, so which can be used for applications running on the host. A source and its replica device reside on the different storage arrays. The source and its replica device or the replica device resides on the different storage arrays. Data can be transmitted from the storage array to the target storage array over a shared or dedicated network. So unlike previous the host-based remote replication technology, where specialized network was not required, we could have used a standard IP network. Here we can also use a specialized network for communication between the source storage array and the target storage array. Replication between the storage arrays may be performed in synchronous, asynchronous mode, or disk buffered mode. There are three modes in case of storage array based remote replication technology. We have the synchronous replication mode, asynchronous replication mode, and disk buffered replication mode. Let us first see storage array based synchronous replication mode. What do you mean by synchronous replication in case of storage array based remote replication? In an array based synchronous remote replication, writes must be committed to the source and the target prior to acknowledging the write complete to the production host. So these are the production hosts. Whenever the production host writes something to the source, it has to be returned to the target as well. Only after that an acknowledgement will be given back to the production host. Additional writes on that source cannot occur until the preceding write has been completed and acknowledged. Suppose one data has been returned to the source, before writing the next data to this source, so that data has to be returned to the target, and then an acknowledgement has to be received by the host. Only then the host can write the next data. So we have this diagram that shows the array-based synchronous remote replication process. In case of synchronous remote replication, to optimize the replication process and to minimize the impact on application response time, the write is placed in the cache of the two arrays. So in case of this synchronous remote replication mode, to optimize the replication process and to minimize the impact on application response time, the write is placed on the cache of the two arrays. The intelligent storage arrays destage these writes to the appropriate disks at later point of time. As we can see, write is received by the source array from the host or the production server. Immediately, the write is transmitted by the source array to the target array. Once the data is written to the target array sends an acknowledgement to the source array. Source array signals write complete to the production host or the server. So these are the sequence of operation that takes place in array-based synchronous replication. So here the intelligent storage arrays destage the writes that are made to the source and target arrays to the appropriate disks later. So whatever writes that is performed, that will be stored in the buffers. So after some point of time, they will be destaged to the disks. If the network link fails, replication is suspended. However, the production work can continue uninterrupted on the source storage array. If there is a network interruption or if the network link fails, replication is suspended. However, production work can continue uninterrupted on the source storage array. The array operating environment keeps track of the writes that are not transmitted to the remote storage array. The array operating environment keeps track of the writes that are not transmitted to the remote storage array. When the network links are restored, the accumulated data is transmitted to the remote storage array. So if the network link is failed, replication is suspended, but the production host can write to the source storage array. The array operating environment keeps track of the writes that are not committed to the remote storage array. So when the network links are restored, the accumulated data at the source storage array is transmitted to the remote storage array. During the time of network link outage, if there is a failure at the source site, some data will be lost and the RPO as the target will not be 0. So if the network link fails and if there is a failure of the source storage array also, in that case, that may cause some data loss. So that is synchronous storage array remote replication or storage array based synchronous replication. Let us also see what do you mean by array based asynchronous remote replication. In case of array based asynchronous remote replication mode, a write is committed to the source and immediately acknowledged to the production host. Data is buffered at the source and transmitted to the remote site later. The source and the target do not contain identical data at the same time in case of asynchronous remote replication of storage used by the storage array. The source and the target devices do not contain the identical data at all times. The data on the target device is behind that of the source, so that the recovery point objective in this case is not 0. So recovery point objective cannot be expected to be 0 because the data is buffered at the source and then transmitted to the target site later. So let us look at the sequence of operations here. So first, the write is received by the source array from the production host or the server. Immediately the source array signals write complete to the host or the server so that the production host can write the next data to the source. So next step is write is transmitted by the source array to the target array. And lastly, the target array sends an acknowledgement to the source array. These are the sequence of operation that takes place in array-based asynchronous replication. So here there is no impact on response time. So extended distance between the arrays can be possible since it is asynchronous mode, and also lower bandwidth is required as compared to synchronous mode of remote replication. Some implementations of asynchronous remote replication maintain something called as write ordering. A timestamp and a sequence number are attached to each write when it is received by the source. Writes are then transmitted to the remote array where they are committed to the remote replica in the exact order in which they were buffered at the source. So writes are then transmitted to the remote array when they are committed to the remote replica in the exact order in which they were buffered at the source. This implicitly guarantees consistency of data on the remote replicas. So other implementations ensure consistent database by leveraging the dependent write principle inherent in most database management systems. So in asynchronous remote replication, the writes are buffered for a predefined period of time. At the end of this duration, buffer is closed and new buffer is opened for subsequent writes. So in asynchronous remote replication mode, data writes are buffered for a predefined period of time. At the end of this duration, buffer is closed and a new buffer is opened for subsequent writes. All writes in the closed buffer are transmitted together and committed to this remote replica. So all writes in the closed buffer are then transmitted together and committed to the source replica. Asynchronous remote replication provides the network bandwidth cost savings because the required bandwidth is the lowest or it is lower than the peak write workload. During times when the write workload exceeds the average bandwidth, sufficient buffer space must be configured on the source storage array to hold these writes. So during times when the write workload exceeds the average bandwidth, sufficient buffer space must be configured on the source storage array to hold these writes. So in asynchronous remote replication, it ensures consistency by either maintaining the write ordering or by having dependent write consistency. So in write orderings, some vendors attach a timestamp and a sequence number with each write and then sends the writes to the remote array. So these writes are applied to the remote sites in exact order based on the timestamp and the sequence number. So some vendors buffer writes the cache or writes data in the cache of the source for a period of time, maybe between 5 to 30 seconds. At the end of this, current buffer is closed and in a consistent manner and the buffer is switched. So new writes are received in the new buffer. Closed buffer is then transmitted to the remote array. So remote replica will contain a consistent restartable image on the production server. So we discussed synchronous and asynchronous mode of remote replication in storage array. So let us proceed with the next type of storage array based remote replication. We call it as an array based disk buffered replication. Disk buffered replication is a combination of local and remote replication technologies. A consistent point-in-time local replica of the source is first created. This is then replicated to a remote replica in the target. Let us first look at this diagram here. So initially, the production host writes something to the source storage array. So the source storage array first creates a local replica. Okay. Then the source storage array will send the data to the target storage array where we are going to form a remote replica. The remote replica again will form one more copy, that is a local replica. The production host writes the data to the source device. A consistent point-in-time local copy of the source device is created. Data from the local replica in the source array is transmitted to the remote replica in the target array. Optionally, a local point-in-time replica of the remote device on the target array may also be created. Local and remote replication technologies can be combined to create consistent point-in-time copies of data on target arrays. So recovery point objective usually differs in terms of hours if we are implementing this disk buffered remote replication. Also, it requires lower bandwidth requirements, and it's also an extended distance solution. It can be used for very long distances, maybe between the countries or between very far two places. So that is storage array based remote replication. We discussed three types of storage array based remote replication: synchronous mode remote replication, asynchronous mode remote replication, and the disk buffered remote replication. Now the next type of remote replication we have is something called as network based remote replication. So under that we have something called as continuous data protection remote replication, or CDP remote replication. So if the remote replication is managed by the network layer, we call it as network based remote replication. It is neither performed at the host or neither nor at the storage array, but rather it is done at the network level. Hence it is called as network based remote replication. Under that we have something called as CDP remote replication. In normal operation, continuous data protection remote replication, or CDP remote replication, provides any point in time recovery capability which enables the target LUNs to be rolled back to any previous point in time. So in normal operation, the CDP, or the continuous data protection remote replication, provides any point in time recovery recovery capability which enables the target LUNs to be rolled back to any previous point in time. Similar to CDP local replication, CDP remote replication typically uses a journal volume write splitter to perform specific operations. Right? Similar to the local CDP based remote local replication, here also a CDP software is installed on a separate host and write splitter to perform the replication between the sites. And the CDP remote replication also uses a journal volume. So the CDP appliance will be placed between both the source and the remote site. We have the CDP appliance, it will be placed between both the source and the remote sites. So in this diagram it describes the CDP remote replication. In this method, the replica is resynchronized with the source and then replication process starts. So that is our CDP based remote replication. After the replication starts, all writes from the host to the source are split into two copies. One of the copies is sent to the local CDP appliance and the other at the source site. So one is sent to the source site and the other copy of the data is sent to the production volume. After receiving the write, the appliance at the source site sends it to the appliance at the remote site. As we can see, we have the local CDP appliance and the remote CDP appliance. After receiving the write, the application at the remote site sends it to the appliance, or the appliance at the source site sends it to the appliance at the remote site. Then the write is applied to the journal volume at the remote site. For an asynchronous operation, writes at the source continuous data protection appliance are accumulated and redundant blocks are eliminated. Then the writes are sequenced and stored with their corresponding timestamp. So here, after the replication starts, all the writes to the source, writes from the host to the source, are split into two copies by the write splitter. So one copy will be sent to the local CDP appliance at the source site and the other one to the production volume. So after receiving the write, the appliance at the source site sends it to the application at the target site. Then the write is applied to the journal volume at the remote site. For an asynchronous operation, writes at the source CDP appliance are accumulated and redundant blocks are eliminated. Then the writes are sequenced and stored with their corresponding timestamp. The data is then compressed and a checksum is generally generated. It is then scheduled for delivery across the IP or the FC network to the remote CDP appliance. All the data is received at the same time. The remote appliance verifies the checksum to ensure the integrity of the data. Data is then uncompressed and written in the remote journal volume. As the next step, data from the journal volume is sent to the replica at the predefined intervals. In the asynchronous mode, the local CDP appliance industry acknowledges writes as soon as it is received. In the synchronous replication mode, the host application waits for an acknowledgement from the CDP appliance at the remote size. So in the synchronous replication mode, the host application waits for the acknowledgement from the CDP appliance at the remote site before initiating the next write. Synchronous replication mode impacts the application's performance under heavy write loads. Synchronous replication mode impacts the application's performance under heavy write loads. For remote replication over large distances or over extended distances, optical network technologies such as DWDM, that is dense wavelength division method or division multiplexing, or coarse wave division multiplexing WLDM, WDM, and synchronous optical network, that is SONET, are deployed. So for some remote replication over large distances, so they use dense wavelength division multiplexing, coarse wavelength division multiplication, and synchronous optical network are deployed. So these are the three different types of remote replication. In case of remote replication, we have the host based remote replication. There we just discuss LVM based remote replication and host based log shipping. So under storage array based remote replication, we just discussed synchronous mode, the asynchronous mode, and the disk buffered. So on network based remote replication, we just discussed CDP based remote replication. So let us see how can we track changes to remote replicas. Remote replicas can be used by business continuity operations. So typically remote replication appliances are suspended when the remote replicas are used for business continuity operations. During business operations, changes will or could happen to both the source and the remote replicas. Most replication technologies have the ability to track changes made to the source and remote replicas to allow for incremental resynchronization. Resuming remote replication operations will require resynchronization between the source and the replica. So during business operations, changes will and could happen to both the source and the remote replicas. Most remote replication technologies have the ability to track changes made to the source and remote replica to allow for incremental resynchronization. Resuming remote replication operations will require resynchronization between the source and the replica. So which array based replication technology should be considered? So synchronous replication technology, that is array based synchronous replication mode, should be considered if the RPO must be 0. So it should be considered if sufficient bandwidths are available at all the times, and also not more than 125 miles of distance between the storage array at the source site and that at the target site. So when can we go for asynchronous or array based asynchronous replication is that, so when you have extended distances beyond 200 kilometers with minimal RPO, so asynchronous mode of remote replication can also be used since there is no response time elongation. It can also be used to generally specify lower bandwidth than the synchronous replication. And lastly, asynchronous remote replication must design with an adequate cache on the buffer capacity. And lastly, we have the disk buffer remote replication. Here, extended distance solution with RPO in the order of hours. So require lower bandwidth than the processor or the require low bandwidth than the synchronous or asynchronous replication. So these are the considerations we need to do before selecting what type of replication are we going to implement. Now let us proceed to the next topic called as the three-site replication. Three-site replication mitigates the risks identified in two-site replication. So in a three-site replication, data from the file server or data from the source site is replicated to two remote sites. Replication can be synchronous to one of the two sites, providing near zero RPO, and it can be asynchronous or disk buffered, but buffered to the other remote site, providing finite RPO, recovery point objective. Three-site remote replication can be implemented as a cascade or multi-hop or triangle or multi-target solutions, right? Three-site replication eliminates the disadvantages of two-site replication. So which was that the single site disaster leads to a window when there is a no data recovery mechanism or technique. In three-site replication, data is replicated to two remote sites. So it is implemented in two ways. That is three-site cascade. We call it as multi-hop also, and we have something called as three-site triangle or multi-target. Let us first see three-site multi-replication, that is the cascade or multi-hop. So here in case of three-site remote replication, that is cascade or multi-hop, we have the source site, we have the remote site, and in between we have something called as a bunker site. Okay. So let us see what is this. Synchronous and disk buffered or cascade or multi-hopping. In cascade multi-hop three-site replication, the data flows from the source to an intermediate storage array we call it as a bunker site in the first hop, and then from the bunker to the storage array remote site in the second hop. There are two hops, hence the name multi-hop. In the first hop, data will be data flows from the source to the intermediate bunker site, and data in the second hop, the data will be sent from the bunker site to the remote site. Replication between the source and the remote sites can be performed in two ways. Again, we can have a combination of synchronous, asynchronous, and synchronous plus disk buffer. The replication between the source and the remote site in three-site replication can also be performed in synchronous plus asynchronous and synchronous plus disk buffered mode. This is an example for synchronous and disk buffer mode. So the source production volume of the source site writes the data to the bunker site where a local replica will be created, and then the data will be sent to the remote site, which in turn creates a local replica. So you have 5 copies of the same data here, and one data needs to be stored at 5 different replicas or 5 different copies. So then we have synchronous plus asynchronous. So this method employs a combination of synchronous and asynchronous remote replication technologies. Synchronous replication occurs between the source and the bunker. Asynchronous replication occurs between the bunker site and the remote site. Synchronous replication occurs between the source and the bunker. So between the source site and the bunker site, synchronous replication occurs, whereas between the bunker site and the remote site, asynchronous replication shall happen. The remote replica in the bunker acts as a source for asynchronous replication to create a remote replica at the target site. So this remote replica at the bunker site acts as a source for asynchronous replication to create a remote replica at the remote site. That is what is shown in this particular diagram. So the production server writes some data to the bunker site, using synchronous replication. So the replication between the bunker site and the remote site will be in asynchronous mode. So here in synchronous and asynchronous mode of three-site replication, if there is a disaster at the bunker site or if there is a network failure between the source and the bunker sites, the source sites continues to operate as normal but without any remote replication. So if there is a disaster at the bunker site or if there is a network link failure between the source and the bunker site, the source site continues to operate in a normal way without any remote replication. The situation is similar to the remote site failure in two-site replication solution. The updates to the remote site cannot occur due to the failure in the bunker site. Therefore, the data at the remote site keeps falling behind. But the advantage here is that the source fails during this particular time. So operations can be resumed at the remote site. Recovery point objectives at the remote site depends on the time difference between the bunker site failure and the source site failure. A regional disaster in a three-site multi-hop or cascade replication is similar to the source site failure in two-site asynchronous replication. Operations are failed over to the remote site with an RPO in the order of minutes, that is the recovery point objective will be in terms of minutes. There is no remote protection until the disaster is resolved. Local replication technologies could be used at the remote site during this particular time. If a disaster occurs at the remote site or if the network link fails, so if the disaster occurs at the remote site or if the network links between the bunker site and the remote site fail, the source site will continue to work as normal with the disaster recovery protection provided at the bunker site. So that is your three-site replication with synchronous plus asynchronous. So in synchronous plus disk buffered, this method employs a combination of local and remote replication technologies. Synchronous replication occurs between the source and the bunker. So synchronous replication occurs between the source site and the bunker. A consistent point-in-time copy or point-in-time local replica is created at the bunker site. Data is transmitted from the local replica at the bunker to the remote replica at the remote site. Optionally, a local replica can be created at the local site as shown in this particular diagram. After data is received from the bunker. So in this method, a minimum of 4 storage devices are required, including the source, to replicate one storage device. To replicate one storage device, we need to have a minimum of 4 storage devices, or at least 3 more storage devices. Recovery point objective in the remote site is usually in the orders of hours for this implementation. The process to create the consistent point-in-time copy at the bunker and incrementally updating the remote replica occurs continuously in a cycle. So that is our synchronous plus disk buffered 3-site replication. Now let us see what do you mean by 3-site replication, triangle or multi-target. In 3-site triangle multi-target replication, data at the source storage array is concurrently replicated to 2 different arrays at 2 different sites as shown in this particular diagram. Here we don't have just one target site, we may have more than one target site, hence the name multi-target. As shown in this particular diagram, the source to bunker site source to bunker site. That is the first target. This bunker will be treated as the first target. Application is synchronous, or the replication is synchronous with near zero RPO. The source to bunker site replication is synchronous with near zero recovery point objective. The source to remote site replication is asynchronous with recovery time objective. So the replication between the source site and the bunker site will be synchronous replication, whereas the remote replication between the source site and the remote site will be asynchronous replication. So the source to bunker site replication is synchronous with near zero RPO, and the remote source to remote site replication is asynchronous with an RPO of order of minutes. The distance between the source and the remote sites could be thousands of miles. There's no proper distance limitation between the source and the target site. However, they have mentioned here it as 1000 or thousands of miles. The distance between the source and the remote sites could be thousands of miles. This implementation does not depend on the bunker site for updating data on the remote site, because the data is asynchronously copied to the remote site directly from the source. The triangle or multi-target RPO, unlike cascade or multi-hop solutions, in which the failure of a bunker site results in the remote site falling behind the RPO increasing. The triangle multi-target configuration provides consistent recovery point objective, unlike the cascade multi-hop solution, in which the failure of a bunker results in remote site filling and yeah, that's it. The triangular multi-hop multi-target configuration provides consistent recovery point objective, unlike cascade multi-hop solutions, in which the failure of a bunker site results in the remote site falling behind the RPO increasing, and the RPO is increasing. The key benefit of this three-site triangle or multi-target replication is the ability to fail over to either one of the two remote sites in case of source site failure. The key benefit of this particular three-site triangle or multi-target replication is the ability to fail over of the two remote sites in case of source site failure, with disaster recovery protection between the bunker and the remote sites. Resynchronization between the two surviving targets is incremental. Disaster recovery protection is always available if one site failure occurs. Okay, the key benefit of this three-site multi-target replication is the ability to fail over to either of the two remote sites in case of the source site failure. If the source fails, we can shift the source site to one of the surviving remote sites with disaster recovery protection between the bunker and the remote sites. Resynchronization between the two surviving targets or two surviving sites is incremental. Disaster recovery protection is always available if one site failure occurs. During the normal operations of all three sites are available and the production workload is at the source site, at any given point of time, the data at the bunker and the source is identical. The data at the remote site is behind the data at the source and the bunker. The replication network links between the bunker and the remote sites will be placed but not in use. Thus, during normal operations, there is no data movement between the bunker and the remote areas. The difference in the data between the bunker and the remote sites is tracked so that if a source site disaster occurs, or the operations can be resumed at the bunker or the remote sites with incremental resynchronization between the two sites. A regional disaster in three-site triangle or multi-target replication is similar to a source site failure in two-site in two sites remote replication. So a regional disaster in three-site triangle or multi-target remote replication is similar to the source site failure in two-site asynchronous replication. If the failure occurs, operation failover to remote site with RPO within minutes. There is no remote production until regional disaster is resolved. Local replication technologies could also be used at the remote site during this particular time. A failure of the bunker or the remote site is not actually considered as a disaster because the operation can continue uninterrupted at the source site while the remote disaster recovery protection is still available. A network link failure to either the source to bunker or source to remote site does not impact the production at the source site while remote disaster recovery protection is still available with the site that can be reached. So that is our three-site replication, triangle or multi-target replication. Right? So three-site replication eliminates the disadvantages of two-site replication. So here the single-site disaster leads to a window where there is no data recovery protection. That was the drawback of two-site replication. Data replicated to two remote sites in case of three-site replication. It's implemented in two ways, that is three-site cascade multi-hop or three-site triangle multi-target. Now let us discuss, we have reached the last topic of this particular VJ session, that is remote replication and migration in virtualized environment. In a virtualized environment, all the virtual machine data and the virtual machine configuration files residing on the storage array at the primary site are replicated to the storage array at the remote site. This process remains transparent to the virtual machines. The elements are replicated between the two sites using the storage array replication technologies. The replication process can be either synchronous or asynchronous. That is, synchronous means limited distance and near zero RPO, or it can be asynchronous. That is, it offers extended distance and non-zero RPO. So there is a trade-off between RPO and distance. If you want to have near zero RPO, then we need to compromise with the distance. The distance should be limited. If there is no compromise, if there is no issue on the non-zero RPO, then we can go for asynchronous mode, which offers extended distance connectivity option. Virtual machine migration is another technique used to ensure business continuity in case of hypervisor failure or scheduled maintenance. Virtual machine migration is a process to move virtual machines from one hypervisor to another without powering off the virtual machines. So in virtualized environment, all the virtual machine data and the virtual machine configuration files residing on the storage array at the primary site are replicated to the storage array at the remote site. This process remains transparent to the virtual machines. The elements are replicated between the two sites using the storage array replication technology. This replication process can either be synchronous or asynchronous. Virtual machine migration is another technique used to ensure business continuity in case of hypervisor failure or scheduled maintenance. Virtual machine migration is a process to move virtual machines from one hypervisor to another without powering off the virtual machines. Here we have two types. One is called as hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration, and second one we have is something called as array to array virtual machine migration. Let us first try to understand what do we mean by hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration. In hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration, the entire active state of a virtual machine is moved from one hypervisor to another hypervisor. Is moved from one hypervisor to another, as shown in this particular diagram, which shows hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration. This method involves copying the contents of the virtual machine memory from the source hypervisor to the target and then transferring the control of the virtual machine's disk files to the target hypervisor. Because the virtual disks of the virtual machines are not migrated, this technique requires both the source and the target hypervisor access the same storage array. The condition for hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration to happen is possible if both the source and the target hypervisor access the same storage array. In array to array virtual machine migration, so this is an array to array virtual machine migration, virtual disks are moved from the storage array to the remote array. This approach enables the administrators to move the virtual machines across dissimilar storage or heterogeneous storage arrays. Array to array migration starts by copying the metadata about the virtual machine from the source to the target. That is, from the source array to the target. The metadata essentially consists of configuration files, the swap files, and the log files. After the metadata is copied, the virtual machine disk file is replicated to a new location. During replication, there might be a chance that the source is updated. Therefore, it is necessary to track the changes on the source to maintain the data integrity. So, during replication, there is a chance that the source is updated. Therefore, it is necessary to track the changes to the source to maintain data integrity. After the replication is complete, the blocks that have been changed since the replication started are replicated to the new location. Array to array virtual machine migration improves the performance and balances the storage capacity by redistributing the virtual disks to the different storage devices. So, in array to array virtual machine migration, it improves the performance and balances the storage capacity by redistributing the virtual disks to different storage devices. So, with that, we have reached the end of this particular chapter, remote replication. In this video session, we discussed what is remote replication. We discussed the different types of remote replication technologies. We started with host-based remote replication, where we discussed LVM-based remote replication and host-based log shipping. After that, we discussed storage array-based remote replication. Under that, we discussed storage array-based synchronous mode remote replication, array-based asynchronous mode remote replication, and disk buffered remote replication. After that, we discussed network-based remote replication, where we discussed something called as continuous data protection-based remote replication. And after that, we discussed something called as three-site replication. So, we discussed something called as three-site remote replication. So, under that, we discussed three-site multi-hop and three-site multi-target remote replication, or three-site cascade multi-hop and three-site cascade multi-target. Right? So, we discussed the advantages of three-site replication. So, we discussed something called as three-site cascade multi-hop and three-site synchronous plus asynchronous replication, remote replication. And after that, we discussed something called as three-site synchronous plus disk buffered replication, followed by three-site triangle or multi-target remote replication. And then we discussed something called as remote replication and migration in virtualized environment. We saw that virtual machine migration is a process to move the virtual machines from one hypervisor to another without powering off the virtual machines. So, there we discussed two techniques, that is hypervisor to hypervisor virtual machine migration and array to array virtual machine migration. With this, let us conclude this particular video session on storage area networks. Thank you.